Hey, what's up everybody? Whalewolf Gaming here. I'm here with a game called Depression Quest, and it's a little Steam game I found. Basically, it's about someone living with depression, basically, like how they go through everyday tasks with depression. I myself had been suffering from depression as well. I suffered it for 4 years from now. And mainly it's because I lost my mother due to prescription overdose and my best friend due to cancer. And I've just been fighting this big depression. And if you yourself are in depression, either that or if you feel worthless, you feel like your life's not worth living, if you feel suicidal, please seek help. At first I didn't want to seek help, but I've decided that, I can't face this on my own, so I decided I seek help, and I'm still suffering from depression, but it's not as bad as it used to be. Like, I would literally not talk to anyone, I didn't want to do anything like that, and I really felt like my life was worthless. So, if you ever feel suicidal or anything like that, please seek help. Please seek help, because your life's worth living whether you know it or not. And there's this hotline, it's called the Suicidal Prevention Hotline right there. I might leave the phone number in the description, because if I can help at least one person out, that'd be awesome. If I, at the end of the day, with the low amount of views I have, if I don't help someone out, then at least I've tried, But anyway, let's get started. So, this is the whole thing. Okay, the goal of the game is twofold. Firstly, we want to illustrate as clearly as possible what depression is like, so that it may be better understood by people without depression. Hopefully this can be something to spread awareness and fight against the social stigma and misunderstandings that depression sufferers face. Secondly, our hope is that in presenting as real a simulation of depression as possible, other sufferers will come to know that they are alone, and hopefully derive some measure to comfort from that. I'm not going to read all this, so let's get started. It is early on a Monday morning. You are a mid-20s human being. You have a significant other named Alex, who you are rather fond of, that you have been seeing exclusively for the past few months. The rest of your social circle consists of a variety of friends and acquaintances, some of whom you met at your day job, which is a little boring, but pays your rent. You like to be doing more with your life, as would your parents, but you're still in the process of figuring out what that means and how to go about. You are also dealing with motivation issues that sometimes make dealing with these things difficult. You feel like this is probably your fault, and on bad days can feel onward angry and down on yourself for being quote-unquote lazy, but you're not quite sure how you can break out of it, or on how other people deal with these feelings and seem so very functional. You spend a lot of nights fixating on thinking about this, but never seem to do anything about it other than lose sleep. It is unseasonably warm Wednesday evening. You spent the past several hours at work. The past week or so, you found your job motivation flagging more so than usual. You've been in a fog practically all day today, simply going through the motions without realizing even what you've been doing half the time, and yet time seemed to be moving at half speed. You're so checked out that when your boss approaches you to tell you that it's dead and you can go home early, it barely registers. As you walk home, the streets hiss from the recent rainfall. You know that your significant other will be in class and will be in classes until late. Another couple hours at least. You briefly consider using this whatever that word is, my bad, I can't pronounce some words, solitude to catch up on that project that you've been working on haphazardly. Oh, never heard that. Those are two words I'm never hearing it. Hear about. I'm not no like college graduate or anything like that. So, anyway, for the past few months, as soon as you think about the work that awaits you at home, you can feel the panic creeping in from the back of your brain. I'm Biden. All you can think about is how incredibly far behind you are, and the amount of work seems nothing less than insurmountable. By the time you arrive home, change out of your comfortable work clothes, the stress is weighing down on you like heavy, wet wool blanket. Your computer seems to be staring you down from your desk. You want to sit down and work, but the mere thought of trying to work sends your stress levels high. More than anything, you feel suddenly and absolutely exhausted and feel a strong desire to simply hide in bed. Do you... What? Order some food, grab a drink, and hunker down for a night of work, and that's crossed off. Okay. Oh, they got some side notes. You're depressed. Interactions is exhausting. You're becoming more and more withdrawn. You're not currently seeing a therapist. You're not currently taking medication that depression. Okay, so recently sit down at your desk and try to make yourself do something. Turn on TV, tell yourself you just need a quick half hour to unwind from work. Crawl in bed, you're so stressed and overwhelmed you couldn't possibly accomplish anything anyways. I would say, usually I like to relax before and after work, before doing anything. Like, I'll sit there and relax for a little bit, and then I'll get to YouTube, I'll, do something, I don't know, whatever I need to do. So, let's try this. Okay, so just a half hour TV, you tell yourself, absolutely grasping for the remote. You don't so much sit down on the couch as to sink into it. You turn on TV and start going through your usual channel routine. After a few cycles of this, you realize that you're really not doing much more than thumb castellation, absolutely killing time. You check the clock and see that over 20 minutes have already passed since you sat down. As your self-imposed time limit creeps over near, you become more and more anxious. You stand up and walk to the fridge, telling yourself, I'll just make a quick sandwich, get to work after that. Can't be productive on an empty stomach, right? As you eat, you start pacing around your apartment, heading past your bedroom process. You stop in the doorway as if physically unable to cross the threshold. Familiar waves of exhaustion start racking you, and you feel similarly tired and panicked. You close your door and head back to the couch. It's still early yet, you tell yourself. As long as I get to work in an hour, I'll have plenty of time to be productive. As you flip channels and let the CSI, and Jeopardy reruns wash over you, you sink deeper in the couch, feeling at once encroach upon his shield by being quite literally swallowed up by it. As the second hour draws near, sure enough, you find yourself getting anxious and jittery. You repeat the fridge-paced couch process a couple more times before you look at a clock and realize that several hours have passed, and not surprisingly, you manage to get no work done. Called into bed, acutely aware of the fact that you have work in the morning and that any opportunity you had to catch up on your own creative endeavors today was squandered. You're feeling so disgusted with yourself that when Alex calls to talk to you on the way home from class, simply say you had a really rough day at work and you're trying to rest up before your shift tomorrow. She says she understands and wishes you a good night, though you can't help but notice that she sounds slightly disappointed. Ironically, the stress of potentially upsetting your partner compounds with the stress of not having gotten anything done this evening and the stress of having to go into work tomorrow. The buzzing of anxiety in your brain melts towards with your body's other physical exhaustion, and you sink into a semi-hypnagogic anxious funk. Too tired to try and work, but too anxious to fall asleep for several hours. It's a mild Friday afternoon. By the way, I just want to say something. This looks sick right there. It looks pretty good. Anyway, Alex calls you from one of her classmates telling you that there's going to be a really awesome birthday party tonight at her apartment that one of her roommates is throwing. You've hung out with this roommate a few times with Alex, and you get along well enough, but aren't particularly close. You don't have work in the morning and have nothing else in particular to do tonight. You're feeling kind of run down, but you have been fatigued most of the time lately. You mentioned that you're feeling ill because you're not sure how else to explain those feelings to someone else, and say that you aren't sure that you can make it tonight. There's a second silence over your phone, but you could swear you could hear the sound of your partner's face fall. She tries to convince you anyway. You haven't seen her this week, and she sounds pretty intense in that you come over. She even drops a few suggestively worded hints that you could stay over with them tonight after the party. What do? Shake off your funk, go have a good time with your girlfriend has been crossed off. So you either agree to go or say that you're really just not feeling well and can't make it. I'll just go. Okay, you agree to go even though you're really not feeling social. You know it's important to Alex and you really like to see her. Seeing her does make you feel better sometimes, and you hope that this is the case tonight, even if it does mean dealing with all the usual social anxiety. The time to leave rolls around. You grab your overnight bag. Alex's apartment is a short walk away, and there are already people hanging out on the porch. You feel your chest tighten as you approach the building and try to steal your nerves. You quickly find your partner chatting away with the birthday girl, and Alex immediately lightens up when she sees you. I'm so happy you came. I wasn't sure if you were gonna make it. A young man taps her on her shoulder, and she turns back to you to apologize, to let you know that they have to do something for a party. Alex hands you a bill. Not bill. That would be horrible. Alex hands you a beer and plants a kiss on your cheek before going off to deal with whatever came up. As you look around, you're seeing one you recognize. Awkwardly stand in the same spot, unsure what else, put your bag in your Alex room and avoid the crowd in there for a while. Cling to the back wall, sip your beer, and wait for your girlfriend to return. Proceed to drink in earnest, hoping it makes you less comfortable. Let's see if he'll lighten up a bit. He might, who knows. After Alex walks away, you're not quite sure what to do with yourself. Scanning the party for familiar faces yields nothing, and you're not sure whether your girlfriend or the birthday girl got off to. You look at a beer in your hand. You know you care a lot less about everything in general when tipsy, but you know you should avoid getting drunk and possibly emotional. Quickly down the beer, hoping that it will loosen you up a little. You down a few more as quickly as your stomach will let you handle carbonation comfortably and wait for it to take effect. By the time it does, Alex has already returned and is introducing you to people. However, all that drinking accomplished was making you even more tired and unfocused, and you stick to your girlfriend for the rest of the night, staying fairly quiet in group conversations. Later that night, as the two of you are both tipsy and dozing off, Alex cuddles up with you and slightly lures, I'm really glad you turned up tonight. To be honest, I really didn't think you'd show. It's really cool you did, really. You know she meant lovingly, but you're not quite sure how you feel about that statement. It's a little afternoon on a muggy Saturday. Your mother has come over for a surprise visit, claiming loudly that she doesn't see you enough, so she decided to invite herself over. As you converse, she walks around your place, and you get a distinct impression that you're being inspected. Oh, yeah. If you guys have mothers and you guys have like your own place and whatnot. You probably feel the same pain this guy does. Anyway, so what's going on with you lately? She asked abruptly, taken somewhat aback by this left fielder. You tell her you're not sure what she means. She repeats your question, saying that you haven't seemed like yourself lately. She gestures into a dirty dishes piled up in the sink and notices the fact that you haven't called or visited in a while. Your retenance only seems to spur her on more. She presses you, asking if you're having problems at work or with Alex, and you begin to feel increasingly battered by her sudden well-meaning but overwhelming inquisitions. Under her questions, you become increasingly uncomfortable. You want to be able to explain to her how you've been feeling, but the truth is you're not really sure yourself. Nothing horrific has happened at work, or with your significant other, or friends, or anything like that, but all the same you can't deny that lately you just felt drained, and as though you're not really here. You wish you could tell your mother these things, but she hasn't been approachable about negative emotions in the past. She's the kind of person who holds the opinion that the solution to any problem is to simply try harder and maintain a positive attitude. A stance that has reared its head in the past conversation when you become to explore the subject with her. You know she's unlikely to be understanding, and you feel the energy drain out of you when you imagine what would happen if you managed to blurt out everything you're feeling. What do? Try to be honest with her anyway? Tell her that everything's fine, thank her for asking, change the subject. I mean, if it's gotten pretty bad to where, you know, he can't really like talk to her, I'd say just everything's fine, thanks for asking. I'm okay, Mom, really, thanks for worrying about me. Your mother looks at you from across the room with frowned brows, and you wonder if the tone of her voice was least bit convincing. She slightly opens her mouth as though she was about to say some more, but instead she digs through her purse for her cell phone, having apparently decided against it. Well, as long as you're okay, honey, her voice trails. As your mother returns to what amounts to more or less small talk, you realize that this part of the conversation has happened a lot recently. Someone will express concern for you or ask if you're okay out of seemingly nowhere. You tend to find that it's simpler to just declare that you're okay, then find the right words for complicated and murky feelings. Besides, since none of them are in reaction to a specific event, maybe you really are okay and just complaining about nothing anyway. Sometimes when you insist that you're okay to those who ask, you have to wonder if you're trying to convince them on yourself. It's a lazy Sunday morning. You're idly clicking around online as your phone rings. Sam, a co-worker of yours that you're friendly with, asks how you are and makes hurried small talk with you. You typically only ever talk to him on the phone when one of you needs a shift covered, so it's slightly awkward. You're waiting on anticipation for him to ask you to come in on a short notice when he veers the conversation in a completely different direction. How do you feel about cats? He asked. Mine had a kitten a few weeks ago, and I'm having an awfully hard time finding a home for the last one to deliver. You don't have any pets, right? It takes you a moment to process this new information. You call off guard as he begins in earnest to try to sell you on the idea of taking the last kitten off his hands. It's not something that you had specifically considered before, and he seemed fairly insistent. She's a real sweetheart, really loves people. She got all her shots already taken care of, and the vet says she's as healthy as a horse. I can bring her over by your place tonight if you're interested. Look around your apartment and try to picture a cat as he continued to tell you about about how cute he is. You tell him this is all kind of a sudden, you don't have anything for a kitten up here. Oh, don't worry about it. I can bring a little box and food and all that since you've really been helping me out of a fix. It's the least I could do. I just don't want to have to put her in a shelter. You can't but feel like you're being guilt-tripped, but you decide to give some serious consideration. It does get awfully lonely about your apartment and might feel less empty with a camera. However, since you've been feeling so down, it might not be a good idea to take on responsibility of a cat, even if they're fairly low maintenance. So apparently, the two options are crossed out. The fact of taking the cat knowing full well that you can take great care of it, decline even though you'd be totally capable of taking care of it, not much of a cat person. Become a cat owner, you should use the companionship. Decline, you're not in a good enough place to be taking on more responsibility right now. Decline, you don't like cats. Decline. I'm sorry, I just can't right now. I hope you find a good home for her. You sit through a few more sales pitch statements that border on guilt trips and rebuke them with fabricated excuses about your landlord not allowing pets before your coworker gives up and thanks you anyway. Wish him luck in finding a home for her, and as you hang up you feel pangs of guilt as you imagine him having to put her in a shelter. You wonder if the chance of the kitten ending up in the shelter was worse than the chance of you being unable to care for an animal, and you feel pretty awful about yourself regardless. Your apartment's emptiness feels a lot more palpable suddenly, and you wonder if you could have pulled it off. You consider getting a pet in the future after more careful consideration and preparation. Next day at work, you run into your coworker and breathe a sigh of relief as he informs you that he was able to find a good home for the kitten. She's probably way better off than she would be with me, you think. It's late afternoon and quitting time is just around the corner. A bright clear day is giving way to still temperate evening. You can hear your co-workers all around you anxiously making plans for their evenings and weekends. But you're really looking forward to just going home and resting after what turns out to be a very long and taxing work week. Just before the end of your shift, you get a call from Alex. It seems a group of your mutual friends are heading out to a nearby pub for dinner and drinks to celebrate the end of the week, and they want to know if you'd like to come along. You tentatively tell her that you're emotionally exhausted from a work week, and a social outing like that would just take too much out of you today. You encourage her to go and have a good time since you know it's been a while since she's gone out with friends. But the effort feels through it since you know that she isn't going to go without you. A couple hours later, the two of you find yourself in a familiar position on a couch watching comedy shows on Netflix. A box of pizza opened on a coffee table in front of you. As you look across her on the couch, you start to feel anxious. You feel bad about effectively forcing the two of you to stay in tonight and again. While you are always appreciative of your partner's efforts to take your feelings into account and help make sure you're social comfortable, you sincerely worry that you're holding her back from enjoying a more fulfilling relationship. While she does seem to enjoy spending time with you, as the two of you sit in a comfortable, almost contained silence watching old shows you've each seen 2 or 3 times before, your ever-increasing fear that your relationship is becoming one-sided weighs more and more heavily on you. You feel more like a burden or a ward to her, and it's virtually impossible for you to see what value you could possibly offer to her in return. Worst of all, this nagging fear has made you feel more self-conscious than ever, withdrawing ever inwards and you start pulling away from Alex yourself. What do? So it looks like desperate times, your girlfriend sincerely loves you, relationships are a two-way street, and resolve always to be for her, like she's been there for you. That's been crossed out. Tell Alex how important she is to you. That's crossed out. Ask Alex if she's happy with your relationship. Don't say anything. You're already worried about her being upset with you. I should just ask her. Just be honest with her, and if she isn't happy, then just talk about it. Let's see what it does. You look over at Alex, who hasn't noticed you watching her yet, and you try to pierce the expression on her face. You worried that, it's one of sheer boredom and bare talents. You wonder if she's thinking about all the fun things she could have been doing tonight if she wasn't trapped on this couch with you, ordering from one of the same 3 takeout places you always order from. A sense of disappointing of her creeps over you as you picture what the night could have been if you had just accepted the invitation she made earlier. I know this is a pretty boring Friday night for you. Are you really happy with being with me, being like this? She turns to look at you, forehead wrinkle. Why do you ask me that so often? You feel her body stiffen and pull away for yours just a little. Well, I mean, you start but unable to try and think of how to answer. It's probably silly, but it's reassuring that I hear that we're on the same page. I want to make sure I'm right for you is both crossed out. So it's either, I know it's not what you usually be up to. I don't know. I guess I get kind of worried that you're getting bored sometimes. Never mind. Sometimes Alex sighs. Look, if that were the case, I would let you know. I don't think you're boring. You're more of a homebody than I am. I'm learning how to deal with that. Deal with it, you think, repeating your mind. Does she see you as a problem to be dealt with? You try to pick her reply apart in her mind, and all your conclusions lead to your previous worry that you're holding her back. You begin thinking that the phrasing was chosen without too much deliberation, and that despite her attempts at reassuring you, this slip of the tongue relieved her true feeling. As you would picture how much fun she would be having right now if you had only accepted her invitation and managed to somehow get over your reservations and anxiety, despite not knowing how you would go about that. She calls back up to you. Thanks for putting up with me, you say, staring at TV without actually watching it. She sighs in response. Damn. What a bitch. It's a breezy Sunday afternoon. You've allowed Amanda, an old friend from school that is in town, for the weekend to talk you into leaving the house for coffee and couch. Why am I saying couch? For coffee and ketchup. You meet her in a small cafe and talk about what you've been up to since you've last seen each other, and you can't help but feel like they're a lot more accomplished and interesting than you are while listening to them talk about their life after school. When it's your turn to brief them on your activities, you feel anxious and ashamed and give a very abbreviated version. You try to talk about your job as little as possible, and you feel incredibly boring while you describe it, despite her expressing sincere interest in you and your life. Amanda has known you long enough to read your mood and tone of voice. She leans in to ask a question while gently touching your hand, a look of genuine concern on her face. What's wrong? Do you test the waters, open up a little, hoping she'll understand, insist that nothing's wrong, change the subject, defensively ask what she means by that. Excuse me, sorry, haven't been sleeping good last night. Either that one knows that your hands are shaking. Wait, your hands are shaking? I would notice that too if my hands are shaking. It's a small question, but it feels like a blow to the gut. You surprise yourself when you realize your tightened clenched fists are now beginning to shake slightly. Despite your best efforts, you feel tears begin to sting at your eyes. Aww. You try to discuss this by tilting your head up and praying that they're sucked back in. She suggests that you two get out there and feel mortified. She offers to go back to your apartment with you, but the two of you end up talking in a car for 2 hours as the words just pour forth from you. Amanda seems unsure of what to say at times, but she listens and rubs your back as you sob and talk. She asks if you gone to the doctor about this, and you admit that you haven't. She mentions about her mother seeing a very good therapist in town and offers to ask her about it. You're not thrilled about the idea of going to a therapist, and even less thrilled that Amanda might be telling someone about your problems. But she persists and tells you she'll email you the doctor's contact information later in the week. Oh, there you go, so might end up seeing a therapist. That'll help out. It's a glaringly sunny Monday, and one of the few days that your brother Malcolm is in town and free long enough for you to actually see each other. You have a dental appointment that day, but you make plans for him to pick you up afterward. Your appointment takes a little longer than expected because your dentist tells you that you started grinding your teeth in your sleep to a worried degree. Given how nearly everything in your life has been feeling enormous and stressful lately, this doesn't come as a surprise to you. He suggests that you try to reduce your stress levels and fits you for a night guard. It feels awkward and too big for your mouth, and you feel embarrassed looking at your puffed out face in the mirror with it. You finish up the appointment in a hurry and leave about a half an hour overdue for a meeting you've always pontical brother in the parking lot. You finish up as quickly as possible and leave the building to scan the parking lot for your brother's car, but you don't see his old Civic anywhere. You pass by the blue Camaro and jump as it beeps at you, causing you to jump in surprise. It takes you a moment for it to realize, but Malcolm's in the driver's seat. You hop in the passenger seat and compliment him on his new ride, and he mentions that it's a perk of a promotion he recently obtained at work. He starts telling you about how much more money he's making, how his career is really taking off, and how he's starting to look at houses with his wife soon. You clutch the bag containing a night guard in your hand and feel yourself clench your teeth as you think of your gloomy apartment, how long it's been since you've been able to take a day off work without having to worry about meeting ends meet. He's only 2 years older than you, but he feels like he's on the head of you in every aspect of your life. So, how'd your appointment go? Did you get drilled full of holes or something? A sense of shame creep over you. Lie, tell him your routine cleaning, tell him your teeth grinding problems, but not the stress causing. You can't use any of them? Wow. Alright, so I guess I'll tell him. The dentist says I'm apparently grinding my teeth too much when I sleep. Oh, been stressed out lately, kiddo? Decide that you don't really want to get into it. You tell him that you don't think that's the case, and it's probably just a random thing. He doesn't pry further, and instead recommences with you about the time you chipped a baby tooth because he accidentally knocked you over once. You go out for dinner and catch up on things, but you still feel somewhat distracted by the dawning anxiety in the back of your mind. Though you enjoy your brother's company, you feel like you want nothing more than to go home and hide from the world tonight. It becomes hard for you to try to stuff all your feelings in horrible all your horrible feelings down and go emotionless when someone like the dentist can see a fraction of what goes on in your head. It leaves you feeling embarrassed and weak, and you hate yourself for feeling that way. You wonder if you're really fooling anyone into thinking you're a normal person, and then you wonder if your brother knows and is hanging out with you out of a pity tonight. After he drops you back off at your apartment, you throw the night guard. You can't stand to even looking at the thing. It's a dry Sunday morning. You grab your morning coffee and sit down to your desk to check your email. It's a new message that pops up in your inbox almost as soon as you do. It's from Amanda, and you remember her, your meeting in cafe, and awkwardly bring up your feelings to her. Hey buddy, hey, sorry it's been a few weeks. I meant to get this to you sooner, but it took a while for me to get a hold of my folks back home. Dad told me to say hi, by the way. Anyway, I remember what we talked about last time I saw you, and I hope you weren't insulted, but I asked my mom for the number for a therapist. Don't worry, I didn't tell her who it was for. I think she's worried about me now, though. Anyway, the number is 647-723-5274. It's a really good office. You should look into it. Talking to someone never hurts. If you're worried about money, don't be. They're one of the few that has a really good sliding scale fee system and won't charge you for what you can't afford. I hope you're feeling better. It was really nice seeing you again. Hey, it's still early enough that you can call and make an appointment today. What do you do? Sleep on it, see how you feel in the morning. Not kidding on the idea at all, but you don't want to disappoint Amanda. Close your email without thinking more of it. Wait, you can't call the therapist? It literally says, like, either you don't do it at all and you wait till next morning. If I was in that case, I would call, like, as soon as I got in the email, as long as I wasn't busy. Wow. Okay, so I guess sleep on it. The thought of picking up the phone and calling someone about this right now is overwhelming. Sure, you're having a hard time lately and have emotion issues, but are you really in need of therapy? Shouldn't you be able to just get over it yourself? Yeah, that's the thing. I felt like this for a while, and it's gotten to the point to where, you know, one day my stepmother at the time, me and her had a long talk about it, and my family even mentioned about it, and everyone suggested that I, you know, go seek help, go talk to a therapist, and ever since then, it's gotten better for me. Like I said, you know, it's not as bad as it used to be. I used to be really depressed, but I'm living through every day and knowing that, you know, my depression ain't as strong as it used to be. Anyway, what if they put you on medication that feels like a zombie? What if you go... Like I said, I didn't sleep good last night. I was working long hours, and at the same time I was uploading the video recently. So what if you go and the therapist looks down on you? What will Alex think about this? Trying to think about all these things at once makes it feel like a big deal, and you decide to take your time to think on it. The rest of your day passes quickly, and that night you have a hard time trying to sleep because your brain is too busy thinking about all these things and imagining all the ways it could horribly go wrong. Next morning, you check your emails again with a blurry eye. Amanda's email is still there, seemingly waiting for you. You're no more decided than you were yesterday. What now? So apparently you can't just call. Call after wrestling with her for a few minutes long. Don't call, this is way too much. No, you just call, it'll help. You read through Amanda's email 2 and 3 times, then sit and stared at your computer for a while. While the memory of that uncomfortable conversation makes you feel newly embarrassed and self-conscious. Part of you is also encouraged by the fact that she cared enough to get you back at all. Sitting in front of your computer, you start to question things like whether or not Amanda sent you this number out of pity, or perhaps some sense of obligation after having to listen to you. You question her motives and the validity of her concern, and whether or not you think seeing a therapist would even be helpful. Yet, almost unconsciously, you reach for your phone, and before you realize what's happening, you listen to a therapist's line ring. Before you can bring yourself to hang up, you listen to a slightly clinical but not pleasant voice of a receptionist ask, "How can she help you?" I like to make an appointment with the doctor. You manage to stammer a lot. The conversation is quick and not nearly as pleasant as you're fearing, and quicker than you can say, "Who the fuck says that?" You schedule an appointment. Quicker than you realize the appointment day rolls around. What do? Head to the therapist's office, and even though you're totally unsure what to expect, sit in your car terrified and try to talk yourself into it out of going. Just stop going to your appointment ties in your stomach. You crawl back in bed. Just head there. You have your first session with your new therapist, Dr. Susan Melville, a tall woman in her mid-40s with disarming demeanor and patient eyes with the start of slightest smile lines. She makes you feel comfortable fairly easy, which is a pleasant surprise after all your anxiety over the appointment. As you leave, you make it a second appointment. You're still skeptical about all this, but you figure you might as well see where this goes. The hardest part, it seems, were taking their first steps. You're still not sure if and how you're going to tell your family and partner, but you figured you'll deal with that when time comes. Either way, you feel relieved that you managed to see it through instead of being paralyzed with worry over it. Even if nothing comes of it, you did something you would, instead of flaking out or running away. You're emotionally exhausted when you get home and collapse in bed. You sleep better that night than you have in a week. And you're not sure if it's because you were so tired when you got home, or if it's because of the therapist. It is early on Wednesday morning. Lately, you developed a nasty habit of waking up 10 or 20 minutes before your alarm rings. And unfortunately, today is no expectation. You lay in bed, each minute ticking closer and closer to wake up time, and passing on a swelling wave of ever-encroaching dread. Sooner than you would like, your alarm blares with chaotic inventability. You frantically pound the snooze button, then retreat under your blankets as if the warmth of your comforter can shield you from the passage of time. Just the thought of that is making me tired. Wow, I need to take a nap after this or something. Anyway, you almost always have difficulty rising from bed, but today that simple task seems nothing short of Herculean. After several news cycles, you decide that you just can't deal with the work today. You're incapable of even rosing around from bed, let alone going into work and having to force yourself through a work day. Not to mention, you've snoozed so many times that it would make it impossible to make it on time anyways. Head to work, at least you can leave early. If it gets too unbearable, call your boss, tell him you're sick and won't be in today. Just go to work, don't be a baby about it. Despite the fact that your body is actively fighting you literally every step of the way, you somehow manage to drag yourself out of bed, makes your way to work. Surprisingly, you end up only being about 5 minutes late and no one seems to notice or care. Though when you wake up, the simple act of being even physically present at your job seemed like an impossibility. You're surprised at your own ability to push on through the day. While you are far from enjoying or indeed even really coping with the dullness of your job today, you seem to have slipped into a trance-like state of automation, and time is nevertheless passing. Eventually, the end of the day rolls around and you head home utterly exhausted, but at the same time almost proud of yourself for having to stick out. It's 2 a.m. on a Sunday, you have work in the morning. Roll over to see a sickly green glow to TV displayed on your LED alarm clock and let out a accepted sigh. You've been trying to fall asleep for over 3 hours now to no avail. Every time your head hits the pillow, you overcome with anxious thoughts that wrap themselves around each other. Worries about your job lead to worries about your future, lead to worries about your very identity, and you're unable to shake them off long enough to doze off. Your eyes won't even stay shut as your mind races through imagined scenarios going horribly wrong, which you promptly attribute to your general worthiness. Your thoughts run too fast for you to come to a satisfying conclusion on any of one of them. Your room is completely silent, and the silence has given way to a loud static noise rattling around inside your head. Your heart beats loudly, and you worry it's being a little too fast. You worry that if you force too strongly on your racing heartbeat, you freak yourself out hard enough to get a heart attack. You have to be awake for work in a mere 8 hours, and you know that your work is so much worse on a few hours sleep. What do? Every option got crossed, except go to your computer. Sleep is clearly not happening no matter how long you lay here. Probably gonna get in work tomorrow exhausted and fuck everything up and get fired. Snap out of it. What's wrong with you? Can't. Wow. Damn. It's like he only gets one option, basically. So I guess go to your computer. You get out of bed, head to your desk, laying in bed with nothing but your thoughts to keep you company. You feel like you're going insane. The harshness of the light coming from the screen makes you squint as you turn it on, despite how often you find yourself in the exact situation. There have been so many nights lately just like this. As you begin reading a news story, an online friend of yours IMs you. You're up late again, I see. Yeah, can't sleep again. Thinking too much, and she not correct in thinking. You guessed it. Want to talk about it? In there talking. You end up talking with Attic for quite some time about how you've been feeling. He's always been easy to talk to about personal matters, and the added security of talking online helps. Being able to rethink that. Oh crap. Wow. I've been yawning lately, I apologize. Being able to rethink what you say as you type it out and check it before you send it out helps you gather your thoughts. And you find it less imitating in a way to type it all into a prompt, then say it loudly. I don't want to be that guy who thinks they can diagnose something because I read a Wikipedia article, but it kind of sounds like you might have depression. You should talk to someone like that, like a doctor. You pause. You're already that transparent, or is it you gotten used to talking about your feelings at this point? Your insomnia makes you a little paranoid, but you shake it off. We can do some research to see if there's a good doctor near you. It's not like you're gonna go back to sleep anytime soon anyway. Might as well do something while you're awake. No, it's okay. Actually, I've talked to someone about it. Yeah, you talked about it. Oh, okay. I'm glad you're taking that step. I heard it's not an easy one. I know people are kind of stuck at understanding this sort of stuff sometimes, but there's nothing wrong with having depression. You wouldn't be ashamed to have bronchitis or something, so there's no reason to be ashamed if it's your brain that's sick instead. You spend more minutes talking with Alec about your therapy and your feelings about it. He incredibly supportive, and you're happy to find that you had a confidant that understands your illness and is willing to lend a hand when you're having a night like this. A little while later, you fall back into bed and find it easier to drift off to sleep. Even in therapy, you know you're still going to have nights like these sometimes. It's good to know you have a friend who will help you carry you through them. It's a chilly Thursday night and you just gotten off work. This has felt like one of the longest days you've felt in recent memory. Even though nothing expectantly had happened, a ton of minor things kept going wrong, and coworkers has tried your patience throughout the day. You consider leaving work early, but the last thing you wanted to do was to deal with your insufferable boss on top of everything else. You're lost in thought of the commute home, and your feelings of frustration both with your life and the world around you build as you run into minor denominations, like someone bumping into you really hard as they walk by. By the time you get home, you're exhausted and remember these feelings were one you identified as a negative feedback loop with your therapist. These pent-up feelings aren't dying down and are eating at you. You open your front door and stare at your apartment. An overwhelming feeling of exhaustion overcomes you, and you feel like your energy levels are low enough that you likely settle into a single activity tonight. What do? Reach out to someone close to you. Don't burden anyone with your problems. No, just reach out to someone. Your head feels too noisy, and you need to trade it for some actual conversation. Your therapist did say it was important to reach out to your support network, so you might as well give it a shot. So it will be either Sam, friendly enough and could be a good distraction. Mother unconditionally loves you even if she doesn't always understand you. Your girlfriend, or your brother. I say talk to your girlfriend. You dial Alex, who picks up after 2 rings. You ask if she has time to talk, and she tells you she's just hanging around in her PJs, and is actually somewhat bored for once due to being caught up on her coursework. You try to figure out where to start with how you're feeling. You're overcome with missing her face. You ask if she feels like grabbing some dinner. You notice her barely contains surprise and delight on the other end of the line. You meet about half an hour later at an inexpensive dinner not far from your apartment. While the food's not great, you're surprised by how much your mood seems to have elevated just being in their company. While at first you were extremely hesitant to talk about your job situation for fear of being burdensome or sound like a whiner, you see her listening intensely to you with what even you seems to be genuine concern. After winding down with a beer, you cautiously open up a little bit more about your feelings surrounding your job and how drained it leaves you feeling. How you feel like you're simply existing, selling days of your life for no real purpose. You surprise even yourself when you talk about how frustrated and steamed you feel about your job, or how you used to feel passionately about things, but feel like all your energy and capability for creativity is getting leached out of you each and every workday. You can't remember how long it's been since you internalized this much raw emotion. The two of you spent several hours in a diner booth long after after your half-eaten food was cleared and the waitress stopped refilling your coffee cups. As you get up to leave, a sudden wave of self-consciousness washes over you. You suddenly feel incredibly awkward. Then Alex stands up and grabs you tightly around your waist. You realize that short of boring her with your seemingly endless rant, she's simply happy to have gotten a chance to spend time, a real time with you. It's been by all accounts incredibly too long since you allowed yourself to open up to them like this. There's almost palpable feeling of closeness you allow yourself to hold on to as you go to bed that night. An utterly nondescript Wednesday afternoon, this type of afternoon that would incredibly fade from memory unless you made an active effort to preserve it. As it has become a routine on Wednesdays, you are sitting on the couch in Dr. Mill's office. To your mild surprise, she begins the session by breaking her characteristic therapist silence and begins speaking up right away. I wanted to start by saying I think it's great that you decided to come to me. It's an incredibly important first step, she begins. I want to take some time today to talk to you about possibility of supplementing on substituting your treatment with medication. The mention of medication makes your ears perk up and you feel your heart rate increasing. She says many people find adding a logical element to the treatment to be very helpful, and some even prefer to take drugs, simply eliminating the need to visit a therapist at all, providing you rely on your support network and are still reaching out people. I would prefer it if we kept talking should you choose to start medication so that I can monitor your progress and adjust as needed, but the choice is ultimately yours. I just wanted to run to the option by you to gauge what your thoughts on the matter might be. Dr. Melville has given you a lot to think about. What do you think? Accept a prescription. Tell her you like to try some drugs instead of therapy. These weekly sessions has made you uncomfortable. The thought of messing with your brain chemicals makes you uneasy. This whole therapy thing has been overwhelming you, and this is the final straw. You're done with both. Just accept as a way to incriminate your therapy. Just take the prescription. It'll probably help out. You think about the matter over long and hard. It's strange to think that recently none of this sort of thing was even on your radar, and here you are now being asked to make a decision about it. You're both skeptical and nervous, still getting over the initial shock of even just talking to a therapist. Still, over the years, you've done enough entry-level reading on the subject to know that if it doesn't help, at least it probably won't hurt, right? After an intense, protracted period of intentional vacillation, you decided to bite the bullet and go for it. You tell Dr. Melville that you like to try medication in addition to your therapy. You spend about half an hour going over what you'll be taking, and what you should expect from it. Thinking back on the decision later, you're pretty sure you had your fists tightly clenched the whole way through. Okay, so far on the update, you're moderately depressed. You find it hard to focus on anything because you get physically and mentally exhausted very quickly. You're in therapy with a good counselor. You're doing cognitive behavioral therapy techniques, and they're starting to help. Your medication is helping to keep the edge off and keep some of the darker and more negative feedback loops from being as prevalent. So far, it's getting better for him. That's awesome. It's a Wednesday evening and you're visiting at your parents' house for a holiday. It's one in a handful of times during the year you drive out to visit your old hometown and you see random people you had gone to school with around town. Whenever bumping into them, the usual short versions of what you've done since graduating are exhausted. You've gone through a few of these today and have been very aware of how much you feel you haven't accomplished. When you were in high school, you had much larger plans and you feel like you failed to manifest most of them. Even if you had to manage to, you've largely lost interest in what you thought you wanted to do growing up. Now you're not really sure what you want to do, and you felt like you're lacking the ambition or drive to figure it out. Everyone you caught up with seems so happier than you, like they got their lives all figured out and you kind of been feeling like a failure by comparison. Your brother Malcolm arrives with his wife in tow shortly before you sit down to dinner. He's been traveling for his job lately and you haven't seen him since the day he picked you up from dentist. Your parents haven't seen him since before then. During dinner, they all catch up and Malcolm talks about the amazing things he's done on the road. Mother turns to you and asks what you've been up to since you've seen them last. Oh, same old, you say. Nothing really new going on. Your mother makes a face. Oh, nothing new? How long are you planning on staying on that job of yours? Admit that you don't know what you want to do. Excuse yourself to the bathroom. Tell them what they want to hear. Just admit that you don't know what to do. Actually, you start sleeplessly. I'm not really sure what I want to do right now. Mom puts her fork down. So what, you're planning on living the way you do for the rest of your life? How would you afford a house and that paycheck? What about kids? Your father interrupts, slightly placing his hand over his mother's. It's okay, Linda. Let the kids be what they are. There's nothing wrong with not knowing what you want to do in your 20s. I didn't get into construction until I was nearly 40. Your mother looks across the table at you, unsatisfied with her husband's reasoning. I don't think it's normal for someone at that age to not have a path. You need to think hard about it or you'll never make anything of yourself. Mom, come on, Malcolm interjects. This emotionally exhausts you. You want to tell her that you are thinking hard and that not knowing what you're doing with yourself bothers you more than it could ever bother her. That sometimes it feels like you lost in the woods and that if you were to drop dead in the apartment, the world wouldn't notice. You want to make her understand that more often than not you feel like an alien. There isn't anywhere in this world that feels like a place where you belong, and you have no idea to fix it and what to do. You wish you could find the words so she could understand that being looked down on for this kills you and drives home the feeling of being a total outer. Instead, you get very quiet for the rest of the meal while your mind goes numb. Everything inside you feels exhausted. It's a rainy day. You're hurrying through the rain to Alex's apartment at her behest. Though your pace is quick, the rain is steadily soaking up your pant legs as you traverse the town, and it's darkening your already poor mood. The call came while you were at home after a day of dealing with abnormally frustrating people. You spent the afternoon trying to unwind and get some work on your project done. Alex called and interrupted on one of your try to make progress, get frustrated at not making progress, having a hard time making progress through frustration repeat loops. Huh, that's a big name for a loop. You haven't fully shaken off the feelings of being annoyed with yourself from it yet. Knock on her door, and on the third knock, hear a voice call from further in the apartment to come on in. As you cross the threshold, dripping rainwater all the way, you notice that the lights are turned down in the low apartment. You squint to navigate it as you clutch onto your damp umbrella, but end up hitting your shin on the side of the table, numbing a profanity under your breath. You barely make out Alex emerging from the hallway, clad in what looks to be a robe with bare skin of her legs peering out underneath. Why don't you come in and warm up? She asks this in a distinctive, slightly chesty, quote-unquote sexy voice. After a beat of silence, she states more naturally, "My roommates are out of town this weekend, so I thought it would be nice to have a little fun while they're away." You appreciate her affection, but you're too wrapped up in your own negative feedback loops to be in the mood right now. What do you do? Try to unwind with her before getting physical. Suggest you do something else. Tell you, come on, dude, you're getting some. Go after it. Come on. Okay, so I guess try to unwind with her. You look at her standing, barely lit, and notice there's a few candles scattered around the apartment. It occurs to you that she has tried to make this night special for the two of you. Even though you have a tight knot of antisocial frustration in your stomach, seeing how much she cares makes you want to try to melt it away so you can show her how much you care, that she's gone all through this trouble. However, desperately need to shift gears first before that's even possible. You look amazing. Let's have a drink together. You suggest, hoping that this will give you a push you need to get in the mood. And you go in the kitchen, pour two of the drinks, trying to focus on letting go of your bad mood. You sit down on the couch next to her. She colors up to you instantly. "What should we toast to?" she asks over a drink. You think for a moment, passing the chessy to us option. Cheesy, not chassis. Cheesy to us option. You say what's on your mind, letting go of your bad day. To tonight. The two of you cheers and you ask her about her day. Conversation turns fruitless, and two of you find yourself in the bedroom shortly after. You find that you're having trouble getting to things physically with her, and remember that diminished arousal was a possible side effect of your medication. You hope that you were part of a population that wouldn't be affected by it, but it seems as though this was not the case. However, you're able to still enjoy the closeness with Alex and fall asleep together happily. It is early winter evening, and even though it's not particularly late, the time of year has lent the sky an almost prematurely darkened cast. Day after day, just like today, you trudge home from a job you have increasingly come to hate. On this day, your job seems to have reached critical mass, and not even shedding your rain-laden and uncomfortable work clothes helps you to unwind from your workday. You collapse into your couch, blank and numb, while your job always seemed to just be unpleasant reality of extinction. It was a position you sort of fell into unexpectedly, not tending to work there long term, and it's getting harder and harder to keep it up. While it's certainly not your dream job, you always just sort of stuck it out of necessarily before, but it's becoming increasingly difficult to do. Though you can't even begin to imagine what else you could do, you find yourself face to face with the question you just can't ignore. Is your complexity worth the price of this level of mercy? What do? Try and at least be productive by focusing your efforts on your project tonight. Aimlessly look through classifieds for another job. Turn on your TV and let your mind go blank. I would say, if he's unhappy about his job, and if there's like a better one out there with like better pay or like something like that, and just go for it. You boot up your computer and navigate the local Craigslist. Oh, don't we all look like Craigslist? My bad. You shaft through a myriad of legitimate postings, clear pyramid schemes, and the occasional miscategorized random personal ad. You look through a section that is in line with your current job and start feeling a bit of despair. Would things really be different if you're simply doing the same thing somewhere else? You email your resume to a few of the postings after coming up with a cover letter that you could use for a variety of things. After you've exhausted the posting for the last few days, you head back to the main page. There's a section that's more in line with the project you've been doing, though it's a highly competitive creative field that you don't remotely feel qualified for. Despite that, you click on the section and scrolling through the posting, you daydream about actually holding a position where you would get to do something more meaningful. Despite feeling completely intimidated by the requirements, you find a listing that you actually want to apply for. You spend an hour crafting a really personal cover letter, really giving your all to a task, and nervously send off the email. You're rather convinced that you will never hear back from any of these places, but the act of trying to change your situation instead of stewing on it actually feels quite freeing. You find yourself trying to stifle the hope that you end up getting the creative job, but still manage to bubble up anyway. It's a little past 8 p.m. on a Tuesday night. You're at your computer and frustration levels peaked, rubbing your eyes and sighs heavily. You're working on a project from your job that has stretched it to its end, trying to meet a limiting deadline, and as it looks closer and closer, you seriously doubt your ability to get it done. You drag your feet a little at work, and due to your complete lack of energy lately, in spite of wanting to do a good job, you find yourself unable to push past and feel horribly useless for it. You slide your hands off your face to look at your screen as it beeps at it. Hey, are you there? I really need to talk to you about something. You feel like you're getting nowhere with your current task and could possibly use a break. However, you know that you have a history of getting distracted and losing motivation to pick somewhere back up again afterward. Just answer attic. You're feeling like you hit a brick wall with your task, so why not break and help out a friend? Hey, what's up? Oh, good. You there? I just found out I got cheated on. I don't know what to do. Oh no, that's horrible. The two of you talk for a long time. You lend a shoulder to your friend. You give him space to rant, to cry, and most importantly, to be able to voice his inner the mole. You give him your full attention and talk him through what his options are for what he does next. You keep him from doing something rash until you decide it was best for him to sleep on it before doing anything. Exhausted, he departs for bed and thanks you for being there with him. As you close the IM window, you feel horribly sorry for your friend, but happy that you were able to help. It serves as a tangible reminder that you are capable of being useful to someone instead of solely being a mess that needs everyone else's help. You boot up your computer work project and you find that you're suddenly able to get some solid progress done on it at that night. There you go, we got some progress going. It's sunny Saturday afternoon. You're in deep thought on the way home from therapy. However, you notice that this time you're not in the same negative feedback loops you usually get trapped in when being in the introspective. Realize though that you still have your bad days. Your lows aren't quite as low as they used to be. Your antidepressant bottles rolls across your dashboard as you take a left turn. You've been on this medication for quite a while now, after a period trying a few different kinds. Though you still have minor side effects, they've overall become an unnoticed part of your life. You feel as if your life has generally changed for the better recently, and you begin to wonder if you need them anymore. You don't feel as much despair or hopelessness, and you hate yourself a lot less these days. Maybe it's time to stop taking these, you think. I seem to not really need them anymore. Just continue your medication. You have realization that can't be sure if it's a general life change that making you feel better or if it's just a sign that medication is working. You decide against discontinuing your meds, and it's not really a lesson you like to learn the hard way, and the side effects of this particular kind of thing are negligible. The next time you see Dr. Melville, you tell her about this. She informs you that this is a common train of thought that people who have begun using medication to help them manage their depression experience, and that you manage to dodge a bullet because it generally ends poorly. She also asks you to talk to her first before making any decisions about your medication in the future. It's yet another sleepless Thursday night. You're in Alex's apartment, wide awake in bed as she's sleeping peacefully beside you. She fell asleep an hour ago. You've been laying here unable to shut your brain up long enough to fall asleep. You added the feeling of insecurity about your relationship, the restless noise in your head keeping you up tonight. It was kind of a tense night between the two of you. You arrived after a stressful day at work, and as you made dinner together, you barely said a word. You stuck your own head and had a hard time really being present with her as your thoughts turned all the ways you feel like you're deficient at being a good person and beating yourself up mentally for each other. She told you she could tell you were in one of your moods, and said that she wouldn't push you but missed talking to you as the two of you sat on a couch together. You wanted to tell her how much you love her, but you couldn't make the words come out right and ended sounding defensive instead. As you lay there next to her now, you trace your fingers across your arm, just slightly enough to not wake her. You still haven't explained your depression to her, or you started seeing a therapist, or that you've been taking medication. It's starting to feel more and more like a secret you keeping instead of something that she simply doesn't know about you yet. It's become more and more apparent that it's impacting your relationship with her, and you feel a bit guilty about it. However, you're also terrified that if she knew exactly how fucked up you are, that she would leave you. She already worried that she's only with you because she doesn't realize how terrible a person you are yet. You're afraid that this would be a final thing to expose you. She stares in her sleep and squints as she opens her eye. With confusion that comes to waking up, she asks if you're awake and then if everything's fine. Just tell her about everything. You feel like a jerk for accidentally waking up, but you're afraid if you put this off any longer that you won't find strength to tell her everything later. No, actually, everything is okay. Can I tell you something important? Alex sits up, rubbing the sleep out of her eyes. For the rest of the night, you lay side by side, holding hands, as you tell her everything. You tell her how it's more than just feeling sad sometimes, how you feel trapped by your own mind sometimes, how sometimes you feel nothing at all, and how you can't shake it off. You tell her how you started going to a therapy, how you feel embarrassed about how it's working out for you. She listens the entire time, occasionally asking questions about how this and that works, or asking you to explain something further. She squeezes your hand, tells you she understands, and that she's sad you didn't tell her sooner. After laying silent for a moment, the weight of what you did hurts you. You desperately want her to say something, to tell you how she's feeling about all this, but you're too afraid. You're too afraid of what the answer would be asked. You start convincing yourself that now that she knows everything, she's gonna leave. There's no way someone can deal with how you really are. How can I help? What do you want me to do? She asked. You think for a second, and the answer you came up with fills you with despair. I honestly don't know. I wish I knew how to fix this, but I don't know that you can do anything. I think it's something I just have to live with. She looks at you with sad eyes before kissing your forehead. Now we'll live with it with you. I don't know how you could possibly love me. She rolls over and wraps her arms around my neck, sitting her head on top of yours. You don't need to. Just know that I do. Oh, there's an update. You're definitely still depressed, but things are getting better. Whatever you're doing seems to be working. You really feel like you're taking steps into effective, positive change in your life. You now seem to enjoy seeing your therapist, between giving you a chance to talk things out and the CBT techniques she shares with you. You find your sessions extremely helpful. You have been taking your medication regularly, and when you were skeptical at first, it's hard to argue with the fact that you're feeling better than you have in a long time. That's awesome. We're making some progress, guys. We're making this guy happy. We're doing awesome. It's a Friday night and you're laying across your bed, feeling pathetic. As you were leaving work tonight, a group of workers asked if you wanted to join them for drinks. Feeling antisocial and put on the spot, you declined. You have a habit of doing this. You're often so convinced that you're worried and terrible that any invitation to hang out will end in a disappointment for those inviting you. You never feel like you know how to act in group outings, and you feel like a total creep since it seems to come so naturally to anyone who isn't you. You find yourself preoccupied of breaking some unknown social rule that you don't often go out. Now, however, you find yourself alone at home. Your brain has begun telling you how pathetic and sad you are for being unable to be a normal person and go out with nice people. You can't figure out why you can't just go out and meet people and enjoy yourself. At the same time, you're also feeling like no one would possibly want you to hang out if they really knew you, because you're dull and weird anyway. You try your typical strategy and boot up Netflix to distract yourself from these feelings, but the frustrations with yourself builds, and you realize that you have to do something else with your night. Anything else to take your mind off of how awful and lonely you feel right now. What do? See if Alex is online, call Alex, drink, go somewhere alone. Try to see if Alex is online. See if he'll talk to you. I mean, you've done so much for Alex. See if Alex would talk to you. Just know that you got more support system. You shut down the computer, open up your chat client. Alec is indeed online, and the two of you catch up briefly before you start passing links and news stories and weird YouTube videos back and forth. He might have watched my videos. He said weird. Anyway, Eventually, he asks if you would like to play a multiplayer game with him. You start to download. He better be playing the Division. Come on, he better play Division. Help me out here. Realize you haven't eaten yet. You tell him that you'll be back in time for a download to finish after you've made yourself dinner. Out in the kitchen, you notice that the time on your microwave, several hours more than you had expected, has passed. You only realize it. Though it's not going to a bar with people, you feel like it's taking the edge off the loneliness that you were experiencing earlier. Even though he's an internet friend, sometimes when you're too down to be social, he's the perfect person to talk to. You connect with them on a meaningful level, and you find it easier to be with yourself while talking to him than you do in most of the face-to-face social interactions. When you're down, you find yourself using this as another reason to feel like a loser, as though you could only make friends if they didn't have to deal with you in person. But for now, you're relieved to be around him. You finish making your sandwich and sit back on your computer. Your download has finished and acts waiting on you to start. It's a cold Saturday afternoon. You just arrived at Alex's apartment, and you're happy to finally see her after a week of absence due to your schedule is not lining up due to work and school. You hug her in the doorway, but she breaks away sooner than normal. She sits down on the couch as you take off your sneakers and lay them in the usual place, right next to her. There's something I was hoping we could talk about, actually, she says. You instantly worry that you're being blindsided by a breakup conversation due to sudden shifted tone, but she quickly smiles and puts you at ease once she says all the color leaves your face. It's nothing bad, I promise. With that, she leads you over to the couch and sits on the other end of it facing you. So, I hope this doesn't freak you out, and if you feel like things are going too fast, just tell me. Talks quicker than usual frequency. We seem to have a lot of weeks like this, and they really suck. I was thinking I asked, since things are so strong with us, what are your thoughts on maybe moving in together? He would get pussy every day. Come on, dude, you gotta do this. You gotta do it. You gotta move in with her. You gotta do it. Come on. You're the man. Anyway, it takes a few seconds to sink in and leaves you a bit shocked when it does. You were worried that she wanted to spend less time with you, not more. What do you want to, you ask? Well, yeah, I do. I mean, we have to sort out logistics and everything, but those are all the things we can take care of her. She starts to walk through steps of imagining the two of you living together. You love the thought of being able to wake up next to her every day and seeing her so often. However, the more you picture it, the more of her concerns become apparent. There are things she's insulted from, like the days you don't feel like you can even get out of bed, the nights your medication keeps you from being able to sleep, all those moments you're stuck and staring at a wall, completely out of energy, and feeling nothing. How would she handle that? How quickly would she want to get away? So, what do you think? Tell her you want to, but have concerns and discuss them honestly. Tell her you don't think it's a good idea. Decide to move in with God. Just tell her about the concerns. You're really worried that if Alex were to live with you, she wouldn't be able to deal with your days of being unable to get out of bed during nights where you can do nothing but stare at a wall and panic. Even though you discuss your situation with her, you still fear that she doesn't realize the depths of how bad it gets. It's one thing for you to detail how you feel sometimes, but for her to see it pop up occasionally, it's an entirely different situation for it to be something she has to live with alongside you. Well, I like to, but I think it's best if we discuss about it a bit more before committing the decision. Though she seemed a little defeated, you make it clear that you're not making an excuse and actually mean that you want to talk. You irritate a lot of what you told Alex that night, and although she gets a little defensive and tells you that she knows all of that already, she confirms that she's willing to help you sort through your issues. I feel like you forget I love you sometimes. I know that there will be bad days, and I'd rather try to work through them with you. We can figure all this out together. Her words sway away, and you can't help but hold her close to you. Aww. Such a romantic. It's December, and you return to your parents' house to celebrate the holidays with your family. Out in the living room window, you see a gentle flurry of snow drifting down to meet the present blanket of white from yesterday's unexpected Christmas Eve snowfall. Excuse me. Sorry about that, guys. Anyway, and you quietly laugh to yourself at how incredibly cliche it seems. Still, as you sit down to dinner, you can't help but notice how being surrounded by family and the overwhelming kitchen-y atmosphere your mom's decoration has created have actually made you feel relaxed and almost comfortable. Your mom's running around frankly checking the oven and the stockings and just generally trying to quote-unquote family time it up. While your dad sits at the head of the table drinking beer laughing with your brother Malcolm, his wife Karen is there too, whom you always gotten along with well. As you thoughtfully munch at your turkey, listening to conversations about you, your thoughts drift back over the last few months. You think about how hard things had gotten, replaying over in your head some of your worst as well as some of your best memories. It seems like all these things just came to a head over the past few months, and with a sudden flurry of relationship turmoil and professional anxiety, social stress, and above all, an omnipresent sense of weight that seems you have just recently become aware of. You're drawn out of your review by your dad's familiar booming laugh as some cheesy comment Malcolm made seems to have hit its mark. Sitting at that table, you suddenly immensely glad for the chance of being able to ignore everything for an evening, not having to struggle trying to explain yourself for once. Fortunately, everyone seems to be content with laughing at each other's jokes and discussing favorite sports teams, and for a while you think you'll be able to get through dinner without any embarrassing personal intuitions. But no more sooner did the thought cross your mind than the table conversation trickles off, leaving in a slightly awkward silence and descend upon dinner. So, how are you doing these days? Your mom asks you poignantly. It is such a simple question, and one that you seem to have had to answer countlessly times recently. You take a moment to collect your thoughts, then looking up, you take a deep breath. Well, never really thought of seeing yourself as a fighter. Even to say it now, it sounds hokey, but looking back at the past few months where you are now, it really does feel like you endured a immense struggle, and you look at where you are now in the sense of something that isn't quite pride. You still hate your job and find it unpleasant, but you're surprised to find that going into work every day is no longer a monumental challenge. You started adopting some clever techniques like taking short 2-minute breaks every hour to break up the monotony, and you now view your job as 8 short hours every day. A compromisation, that's a big old word, technique that Dr. Melville told you about that you found actually works quite well. You know this job isn't what you want to do for the rest of your life, and you start actively look for other positions, even attending a couple of preliminary interviews. You start making effort to go out with your friends more, where social sense still makes you feel uncomfortable sometimes. You're more and more able to let yourself just enjoy the company of your friends. In fact, your relationship with many of them has increased over the past little while. You still definitely have days where you flake out or don't feel up to hanging out, but for the most part, your friends are understanding and appreciate your communication. By far, the biggest change you notice in your life has been in your relationship with Alex. You were terrified of talking to her about everything at first, but looking back, you feel like it's only strengthened your relationship. She always is supportive of you emotionally, but lately the two of you have been more in sync. And it's really starting to feel like you're building a life together. It even seems like the two of you have been making more concerted effort into sync up your schedules and have been spending more and more of your downtime with each other. Pretty soon you think moving in together would be a very real possibility. Dr. Melville has commented on how you seem to be doing, and rather a result of the therapy, the medication, or both. You can't help but agree. With all that seems to have improved recently, it's sometimes difficult for you to think about the fact that you still have bad days, and sometimes even really bad days. They serve as a stark reminder of the fact that this will be something you likely have to deal with for the rest of your life. Depression is a battle, and though you certainly ahead in the fight, you know the battle isn't ever going to be over. Sometimes even Alex can tell when things are going rough, despite your best efforts to the contrary. While you know that your depression can't never be quote-unquote cured, you have a strong support network in your friends, and even Malcolm, and then armed with a newfound confidence in your friends or family, you accept that though the road may be rocky, it is at very least not solitary. You meet your mom's gaze from across the room and mutters up a smile. "I'm good, Mom," you tell her. She says nothing, and you can feel a smile from across the room. Epilogue. We really want thank you for taking the time to play Depressing Quest. We realize it may not be the most enjoyable game you ever played, or even the easiest, and we sincerely appreciate your involvement. Like Depression itself, Depressing Quest does not have an end, really. There is no net resolution to depression, and it is important to us that Depressing Quest's own resolution reflect that. Instead of a tatty ending, we wanted to just provide a series of outlooks to look for to take moving forward. After all, that's all we can really do with depression, just keep moving forward. At the end of the day, it's our outlook and support from the people just like you that makes all the difference in the world. Thanks again. Wow. So yeah, that was really awesome. And there's credits for him, and but yeah, it's actually a pretty good game. I mean, like I said, I suffered from depression myself for a really long time. I mean, I was even told that I was even born with it because my uncle, my dad, basically a lot of my family have depression. And at first I used to have been suicidal. I used to have been felt like my life is meaningless. Felt like, my friends are just there because they feel like the only thing they can really do is make me happy. I mean, I had a girlfriend for 2 years, and one of the things that I can remember from her saying was, if I can try to think back of it, she was sitting there, she's like, all she felt like was she was just dating me just so she can keep me happy. that really struck me, because I felt like it was a big thing on me, because that's whenever I started getting suicidal. Not because of her like breaking up with me or anything, but it's just the fact that, you know, I started feeling like, you know, everybody was just there to keep me happy. They don't want me dead, but they kind of don't want to hang out with me. But then I got a stronger support system, and I started moving forward. I made some life decisions, and I did something that I always dreamed of doing, and I'm doing it right now, which is YouTube. So I just want to thank you guys all again for letting me do this. I don't care if I'm doing this for 10 years and I only have 50 views per video, or 50 million views per video. I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for allowing me to do this, and I hope that one day I can do this every day for the rest of my life, because I mean, it's something that I always dreamed of, and I never thought I'd be able to do it. So smash that like button if you made it to the end of the video. I know this is going to be a long video, and I sincerely appreciate every single one of you that stuck to the end of this video, even if you only there for like 5 seconds and got to this ending. You know, I just want to say thank you so much for being there for me. Anyway, so drop a like if you like this type of video, leave a comment on what you think, and actually leave a comment on any else games you suggest I play. I've been getting suggestions lately, and I might try some of them. There are games that where, you know, I don't feel like playing, but then there are other games where I'll be open-minded and try out a bit. But yeah, I just want to say thank you guys, and like I said before, if you're suffering from depression or anything like that, please seek help. I'll drop the number down below in the description for the suicide hotline. You know, your life is worth living, and you mean to someone whether you know it or not. And this game has really opened my eyes a little bit of, you know, I'm not alone. You know, there's you can fight it. There's ways to support it. You just gotta go out and find what helps you. But anyway, alright, well, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out and stay on.